Name's Mitch Callahan. I've been hauling freight up, and I used to think I'd seen every kind of stupid out there. Slick roads, grain rookies with more horsepower than brains, dispatchers who couldn't find their own ass with both hands and a flashlight. I used to think that if you kept your head down, kept your paperwork tight, and your rig cleaner than DOT expects, you'd be fine. I don't think that anymore. This started like any other early run out of Sparks, Nevada. Still dark when I backed into the dock behind that warehouse off Gregg Street, loading up with industrial-grade cable reels, heavy as sin. They were going to Salt Lake, some substation rebuild job. Paid decent, nothing special. My usual pre-trip was tight. Tires checked, air pressure solid, trailer lights good, no warning lights on the dash. Fuel tanks were full, DEF topped off. Pulled my log up on the ELD, punched in my departure, and rolled out just after 4. Traffic was light, moon still hanging low. Coffee in the thermos tasted like burnt paper, but I didn't care. Roads were clear, sky was clean, and I had a good window to make Elko by midday. I was about 2 hours in, somewhere near Lovelock, when I pulled into a rest area. Nothing fancy. Those concrete stalls with faded blue trash bins, a vending machine that hadn't worked since Obama. I got out to stretch, took a leak, walked a lap around the truck. Habit, more than anything. And that's when I saw it, my fuel cap on the driver's side tank. It wasn't hanging off or anything, but it didn't look right. Just off, like it had been forced a little. There were these fine scrapes along the edge, almost like someone had twisted it open with pliers or a strap wrench. I frowned and gave it a tug. It wasn't loose, still locked in place, but I could tell it had been messed with. Could be nothing. I'd fueled up at that pilot in Sparks. Maybe one of the pump jockeys nudged it wrong, or I bumped it with the squeegee without noticing. I told myself that. Didn't totally believe it. What bugged me more was the sand. Real fine, powdery stuff. Not the kind you pick up on the road. This was like flour, almost white. Sitting in a faint crescent just under the cap, caught in the tank lip. I ran my finger through it and sniffed. No smell. Not fuel. Just grit. Probably road dust. Still, something about it crawled under my skin. I wiped it off, checked the passenger side cap, clean as a whistle, no marks, no grit. That stuck with me. No reason one side would get dirty and not the other, not when they're both getting the same mileage. I didn't call it sabotage, not then. You don't want to think like that first thing in the morning. You want your day to stay simple. Logbook, road, load, delivery. But that cap itched in the back of my head like a loose thread you can't stop picking at. I climbed back in, fired up the engine, and got rolling again. But the rhythm was broken. Normally, I'm in my zone by then. XM radio low, road noise steady, coffee on the warmer. But now I kept thinking about that fuel cap. Who'd been close enough to twist it? Where? Was it back at the yard? At the truck stop in Sparks? It's not like I leave the truck open. I lock the cab every time. But fuel tanks? You can't lock what's already rigged to open with a pry tool in 5 seconds. Maybe it was nothing. But I started watching the gauges more than usual. I know my truck. I can feel when she's pulling right, when she's dragging. Engine temp was fine, oil pressure normal, but my MPG readout on the dash was a little low, 0.5 point, maybe less. Could have been wind, could have been grade, could have been nothing, but it was enough to make me uneasy. Around Winnemucca, I pulled into a Love's to top off my thermos and grab some breakfast, pre-wrapped burrito and a fresh bottle of DEF just in case. In the parking lot, I saw this beat-up white Dodge Ram parked crooked across 2 spots near the edge. No plates on the front. It wasn't doing anything, just sitting there. Engine off. Probably some local trying to nap, but when I came out, it was gone. I don't even know why I noticed it. I was halfway back to the truck when I realized I'd looked right at it and never saw the driver's face. Could have been tinted windows, could have been empty. But the air had that quiet tension, like when a dog stops wagging its tail for no reason. I kept my eyes on the mirrors more after that. Between there and Elko, the sky started to get brighter.
sun coming up slow behind the hills. I should have been enjoying it. That stretch through northern Nevada, flat but pretty in its own way. Instead, I kept checking that fuel cap every time I stopped. I pulled over at a turnout east of Battle Mountain just to check it again. Same marks, same faint smudge of grit. It was back. I wiped it off again and stood there staring at it for a good minute. Whatever this was, it wasn't accidental. Someone had twisted that cap, and that grit didn't come from the road. It came from a bag or a bottle or a hand that knew exactly what they were doing. I leaned on the hood and looked out at the horizon, wondering who the hell I'd pissed off. Hadn't cut anyone off, hadn't taken a load I wasn't supposed to. I didn't owe anyone money, at least not the kind of people who'd mess with a truck. Still, I felt it. That twist in your gut when something ain't adding up, but the math's still sitting in front of you. I thought about calling my dispatcher, but what was I gonna say? Hey, I think someone's playing dirty tricks with my fuel caps. They'd laugh me off, say I was running too much caffeine and not enough sleep. So I didn't say anything. I climbed back in, lit a smoke, and kept heading east. I didn't know it yet, but this wasn't gonna be just a bad morning. This was the start of something long, slow, and mean.
The kind that eats away at your rig 1 mile at a time. I hit the road out of Battle Mountain with that damn fuel cap still bouncing around in my head. Every time I looked in the mirror, I expected to see someone tailing me, but there was nothing. Just open road, low morning sun, and a couple of cattle trucks in the far distance. I figured maybe I was making it all bigger than it was. Maybe. But I started watching my MPG real close. My rig's a 2018 Cascadia with a DD15 and a 13 speed. I know what she drinks, especially on flat ground. Normally I average about 6.9, 7.1 if the wind's kind. That morning, I was barely scraping 6.3. Might not sound like much, but over a 1,000-mile run, that's money. Fuel ain't cheap out here. I reset the trip meter near Wells to make sure I wasn't just seeing things. Climbed up Pequot Summit. Engine pulling harder than it should have, like I was running heavier than I was. That load wasn't featherweight, but I'd hauled denser cable before, and it didn't pull like this. Transmission didn't want to hold gear on the way up. At the top, I backed off the throttle, coasted a bit, then got back on it. Still sluggish, like I was dragging a dead weight behind me. I pulled over at a scenic turnout to walk around the trailer, check the brakes, hubs, tires, everything. Nothing out of place. No leaks, no hot hubs, no locked up drums. I even peeked under the chassis just to be sure no punk kid had strapped something to my axle. Nothing. But when I walked past the tanks again, I saw more of that grit. Not as much as before, but enough to catch the sun. Real fine. Not road dirt, not desert dust. I got in, sat there with the engine idling, watching the tack. She sounded normal. No knocks, no rattle, no hesitation. But I knew something wasn't right. When I dropped into West Wendover for fuel, I only took on 30 gallons. Just enough to top off the tank that looked clean. The passenger side. Didn't touch the driver's side. If someone was trying to slip something in, I wasn't about to dilute the mix and spread it across both tanks. At the counter, I asked the clerk if they'd seen anything weird. Folks hanging around the truck lot, messing with rigs. She gave me a look like I was asking if Bigfoot pumped diesel. Nah, she said, chewing gum. It's been quiet. You guys mostly come in, get coffee, leave. She paused, then added, well, there was some guy in a gray hoodie hanging around the pumps yesterday. Didn't fuel up. Just stood there for a while and then drove off in a white pickup. No plates? I asked. Didn't look. She shrugged. Didn't seem like trouble. I thanked her, grabbed a hot dog I had no intention of eating, and went back outside. Didn't see any white pickups this time, but the unease was back, thick like bad air in a reefer. I rolled into the truck lot and climbed under the cab with a flashlight.
But I couldn't see inside the tanks, and that was the part driving me nuts. I got back on I-80 and kept it at 60, trying not to stress the engine. No point beating her up more if there was something floating in the mix. Normally, I'd push to 65, 68 on the open stretch, but I needed to think. And while I thought, my phone started acting weird.
Lost signal near the Bonneville salt flats, which wasn't odd. It always goes dead out there. But the CB was quiet too. No chatter, no clicks, no background squawk. Like someone had turned down the whole world. That's when the rattles started. Real faint. Somewhere under the hood. Not metallic. More like a fast, dry tick. It wasn't rhythmic, just occasional. I turned off the radio and listened hard. It came and went. Could have been something in the fuel rail, could have been dirt, or air, or something worse. I knew what silica does to an engine. Eats the injectors, burns out pumps, grinds through everything that moves. I eased off the road again, this time just past Knowles, middle of nowhere. Put on the vest, popped the hood, stared at that engine like it might confess. Nothing obvious. No leaks, no warning lights. But when I pulled the fuel-water separator drain, a little cloudy streak came out. Not a lot, just enough to see it wasn't clean. That's when I knew. Someone had dropped something into my tank. Something fine, something slow. It wasn't enough to stop me cold, not yet. But it was enough to mess with the fuel-air ratio, enough to throw off combustion, enough to kill the truck mile by mile. I poured what came out of the separator into a plastic cup and held it up to the light. You could see the shimmer in it. Almost pretty in a way, like glitter. I dumped it, wiped my hands, and sat on the side step smoking, watching dust roll off the flats. Whoever was doing this wasn't in a hurry. They didn't want to jack the truck. They didn't want the load. They wanted the damage to be quiet, expensive, maybe even blamed on me. I knew guys who'd been dropped from contracts over a single engine failure. One bad service report, one warranty denial, and you're out. I thought about calling Ray at dispatch, but I didn't, not yet. No proof, and I didn't want to sound like I was chasing ghosts. Besides, if this was targeted, and by now I was sure it was, then someone was watching to see if I noticed. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. I flicked the smoke, shut the hood, and pulled back onto the highway. My hands were tight on the wheel, shoulders bunched. The road ahead stretched empty as far as I could see, nothing but sun glare and heat ripples. I stayed in the right lane, cruised slow, and started thinking through everyone I'd run into in the last week. It wasn't a long list, but I was about to start checking it twice.
Truck was still pulling, still burning more fuel than she should, and every time I let off the throttle, there was that tick again. Just a whisper of trouble. I needed to stop somewhere I could poke around more. Somewhere not too corporate, not too busy. Big shops? Too many eyes. I needed someone who'd look at the truck without filling out 10 forms and calling dispatch. There's a little shop east of town, off a dirt pullout behind an old Sinclair. Place looks half abandoned, peeling signs, dusty windows, shop cat sleeping under the oil drum. Guy who runs it is called Cal. Big hands, denim shirt, knows his diesels. I'd stopped in once before, a couple years back, when I'd fried a relay near the Carlin cutoff. He'd been fair, quiet, didn't ask dumb questions. That's all I needed. I eased off the highway and rumbled into the yard. Gravel popped under the tires as I parked near the open bay door. Cal was leaning on a tool cart, wiping his hands. He looked up, squinted like the sun was a personal insult. "Callahan," he said. "Didn't think I'd see you again." "Didn't plan on it. Got a weird fuel situation." He nodded. "Pop the hood. I'll finish this oil change and take a look." While he wrapped up with the Chevy in the bay, I opened her up and climbed down. Shop smelled like burnt grease and old coffee. Familiar, comforting in a way. Cal walked over 10 minutes later, wiping his hands on a red rag. "What's it doing?" "Sluggish on climbs, MPG down, no codes, slight tick under throttle. And," I paused, looked around, then lowered my voice. "There's some fine grit showing up around the fuel cap. Not dirt, not road dust, something else." He scratched his beard. "Fuel filter?" I drained the separator near Knowles,
fluid shimmered, like silica. Tank might be contaminated. Cal didn't ask how, just nodded, grabbed a flashlight, and climbed up onto the side steps. He sniffed around the cap, frowned, then twisted it off slowly, held the flashlight low. "Shit," he muttered. "See it?" I said. He didn't answer right away, just took a clean rag from his back pocket, wiped the lip, then held it up. "Look at that." Fine white dust. Not sand, finer. I rubbed it between my fingers. You know what that is? Looks like polishing compound or a dry abrasive, something made to pass through without clogging. Subtle stuff. Real slow kill. I looked at him. "You ever seen this before?" He paused, straightened up. "A few years back, yeah. One of the food haulers had a problem. Reefer unit went out, fuel injectors fried, engine warranty denied. Lost his contract. Found out someone had been messing with his truck at night. Parked at the wrong lot. Didn't even know he'd made enemies. Any idea who? Doesn't matter. He quit after that. Went regional. Short hauls only. Safer." I let that settle. I didn't want to go regional. Didn't want to shrink my world like that. I liked the long road. But this was targeted. Not some bored kid with a wrench. "Can you check the filters?"
I asked. "Main and secondary?" Cal nodded. "You buying or just looking?" "Looking. I'll replace them later if I need to. Right now, I just want to know how bad it is." He waved me over to the bay. "Give me half an hour." While he worked, I grabbed a Coke from the vending machine and sat on the tailgate of a rusted Ford with no wheels. Sky was clear, sun hot. Truckers came and went on the highway like they didn't have a clue. Maybe they didn't. Maybe I was the only one who got picked this time. Cal called me over. He had both filters out, sitting on a steel table. He pointed to the first. "Main's got buildup. Not a lot, but it's not clean diesel." He picked up the second. "This one's worse, starting to cake. You keep pushing this truck, you'll fry your injectors by Salt Lake." I ran my tongue along my teeth, trying not to let the frustration boil over. "So what do I do?" "You can swap the filters and pray that's all they got in, or you can drain the tank, clean the lines, and spend the next 2 days parked." I didn't have 2 days, and I wasn't about to tell the customer I was late because someone spiked my fuel. "Let's swap them," I said. "I'll ride it to Salt Lake, then I'll figure out next steps." Cal gave me a long look. "You sure?" "Nope." He didn't smile, just got to work. 30 minutes later, new filters in, old ones wrapped in a garbage bag in my side box. I was about to climb in when I saw someone pull into the lot. Beat-up Dodge Ram, white, parked across 2 spaces like it didn't care. No front plate. My heart ticked a little faster. Cal saw it too. He glanced at me, then at the truck. "Friend of yours?" "Don't think so." We both watched. Driver didn't get out. Just sat there, window cracked, like he was waiting. I took a slow walk toward the shop door, acted like I was tossing something in the bin. I angled my head just enough to get a look. Can't say for sure, but I think it was the same truck from that Loves in Winnemucca. Tinted glass, antenna on the roof, maybe a scanner, maybe just some cowboy with bad manners. Cal came over, voice low. "If you're into something hot, I don't want it here." "You're not," I said. "Neither am I. But that truck's not a coincidence." "Want me to call it in?" "No. Let's not poke the snake." I climbed back in, started her up. Cal walked around one last time, gave me a thumbs up. "Filters'll hold," he said through the window. "But keep an eye on your rail pressure. Anything spikes, pull over. Don't ride it out." "Appreciate it." I gave him a short wave and rolled out slow, eyes on the mirrors. The white pickup didn't follow right away. Stayed parked. Maybe watching. Maybe sending a message. Either way, I knew now this wasn't some random act. Somebody knew my route, knew my stops, knew where I'd be, and they weren't done yet. I left Elko with fresh filters and a tighter grip on the wheel than I probably needed. Cal didn't say it out loud, but I could see it in his face. He thought I was being followed.
I thought the same, and I didn't like thinking that way. Trucking's got enough ghosts without you inventing new ones. But there was no denying it anymore. Someone had messed with my rig. Someone who knew what they were doing and wasn't in a rush. That meant this wasn't just bad luck, it was intention. And once you start thinking like that, you can't stop looking over your shoulder. Pequot Summit again, but now I was heading east, climbing slower than usual. Truck didn't feel right. New filters helped, but the pull was off, just enough to make you question yourself. Like maybe the grade was steeper or the wind was worse, or maybe you were imagining it all. But I wasn't. I know this stretch. I've run it in the dark, in the snow, and crosswinds bad enough to tip a dry van. This was something else. At the top, I let her coast down, check the mirrors, nothing behind me, not for miles, just that long, empty stretch down into the flats. But I kept checking. I wasn't even thinking about the load anymore, just the truck and what might have gotten into it. Around the Utah line, I lost cell signal. Happens every time. You get maybe one bar if you stand on your left foot and hold the phone up near the visor, but that's it. CB was dead quiet too. No chatter, not even white noise. Like the whole world went silent. Just me and the hum of the tires and the occasional tick from under the hood that hadn't gone away. I pulled into the rest area near the Bonneville Salt Flats. It's a weird place. Flat as a pancake. Wind always blowing, white dust in the air that gets into everything. There was one other truck there, parked at the far end. Curtains drawn. No one moving. I eased into a spot, shut her down, and climbed out. I opened the driver's side tank again. No new grit. Cap looked the same. I took that as a good sign. Then I popped the hood. No leaks, no fresh oil, but when I leaned in close to the fuel rail, I caught a faint smell, burnt, almost chemical. Not diesel, not oil. Something dry, sharp. That was new. I walked back to the side box, pulled out the plastic cup I'd saved from Cal's shop, and drained a little fuel straight from the secondary filter. Let it settle, held it up to the light. The shimmer was still there, less than before, but enough to see. Tiny specks catching the sun like glitter. I dumped it, wiped my hands, and leaned against the fender and lit a smoke. That's what I noticed the other truck had moved. Just a few feet. Could have been a breeze, could have been nothing. But I'd been parked long enough to know I didn't hear it start, and no driver gets out of a sleeper without making noise. I flicked the cigarette, walked back to my cab and climbed in slow, locked the doors, sat there a while, just watching. Nothing happened. Truck stayed still. Maybe I was losing it. Or maybe they were waiting to see if I'd break down on the salt flats. Not a lot of help out here. You go down out here, you're on your own for a good stretch. I decided not to wait. Started her up. Gears grumbled a little, but she rolled. I kept it at 60. No point pushing it harder. About 30 miles out from Tool, the tick got louder, like something was pulsing inside the line. Not a knock, more like a soft crunch every time I gave her fuel. Rail pressure stayed in range, but the needle twitched more than usual. I knew what that meant. The crap in the tank wasn't done yet. That stretch of road's long and flat. Nothing but dust and shallow hills, and I was alone on it. Dead quiet. No semis, no RVs, just a dry wind pushing across the flats. My phone still had no signal. I tried the CB again, channel 19, nothing. I was halfway between Wendover and Grandspill when I saw headlights in the mirror. Just one set, real low, hugging the road. I slowed a bit, let him get closer. Looked like a car, not a truck. Maybe a sedan. Hard to tell with the sun starting to drop. The car didn't pass, just held position about 100 yards back. Close enough to see me, far enough to stay out of range. I changed lanes, slowed to 55. They matched. I sped up a bit, so did they. I turned on the right signal, acted like I was going to pull onto the shoulder. The car drifted to the left lane and kept going straight. Past me slow. Tinted windows, no plates, just like the truck in Elko. I got a good look at the side, black primer on the rear panel, mismatched wheels. Definitely not rental, definitely not clean. But they didn't look at me. No faces. No gestures. Just kept rolling. And after about a mile, they were gone. I held my speed. Didn't want to chase. Didn't want to do anything dumb. But my stomach was tight the whole rest of the way to Tool. I needed a signal. I needed someone to know where I was. Pulled into the Maverick on the south end of town, parked near the back, away from the pumps. Called Ray at dispatch. Told him I might be having fuel issues. Left out the sabotage part. Just said something might have gotten in the tanks. Ray's a good guy, but he runs with blinders. You got coverage for that? He asked. What kind of coverage? I said. Engine? Tow? We got deadlines, Mitch. I'm moving, I said, just slower than usual. Well, keep me posted. Delivery is still tomorrow morning. Don't be late. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Went inside, grabbed some coffee, came back out and sat on the step. Watching the lot, watching the road. That same black car rolled by again. Didn't stop, didn't slow, just kept moving east. I didn't believe in coincidences anymore, not out here. I got back in, locked everything down, and shut the curtains. Didn't sleep much. Every sound outside made me flinch. I kept wondering what they wanted. Why me? And if they'd already done enough damage to kill the truck before sunrise. I left Tool before the sun came up, maybe 4:30. Sky still black, but the air already warm. Truck turned over slow, but she started.
No new codes on the dash, but that little tick was still there, just enough to piss me off. I pulled out of the lot, grabbed a coffee from the drive-through window, burnt, bitter, exactly what I needed, and merged back onto I-80 heading east. I had maybe an hour and a half till Salt Lake, depending on traffic. Still dark, no one else on the road except for one set of headlights that came up behind me, around the first bend after the Kennecott exit. I checked the mirror. Same black sedan. No plate. Low ride. Holding position again, just like yesterday. I dropped 2 miles an hour, thinking maybe they'd pass. They didn't. Just matched me. I tapped the brakes hard enough for the brake lights to flash. Still nothing. Then they pulled into the left lane, crept up beside me slow. I didn't look over right away. Just stared ahead, waiting. But you feel it when someone's watching you. I finally glanced over. Nothing but dark glass. Could have been one guy, could have been 3. I didn't know, and that was worse. Then they gunned it. Quick little burst, engine whining high, and they were gone. Disappeared into the dark like they weren't even real. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, tapped the throttle again, tried to shake the nerves off. It wasn't just the sabotage now. Someone was messing with me for real. This wasn't about screwing up a load. This was personal. I hit Salt Lake just after 6, pulled into the drop yard on the west side near Redwood. One of those industrial blocks where everything looks the same. White warehouses, chain-link fences, and dusty pavement that hasn't seen a broom in years. The receiver wasn't open yet, so I backed into a corner slot and killed the engine. The tick stopped with her. I sat there a minute, rubbing my face, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. That's when I saw him. Guy in a green hoodie, walking between trailers like he belonged there. No clipboard, no safety vest, just walking slow, looking at tags. He glanced at my truck once, then kept moving. I climbed down and followed him casual, like I was just stretching my legs. He ducked behind a flatbed, lit a cigarette, and stood there like he wasn't doing a damn thing wrong. "Hey," I said. He looked up, took a drag, didn't say anything. "You work here?" "Nope," he said, then smiled. "Do you?" I didn't answer, just stared at him. He flicked the ash off his smoke and started walking away. "What are you looking for?" I asked. He didn't stop. "Not your truck," he said over his shoulder. Then he turned the corner and disappeared between 2 dry vans. I walked fast to the other row, but he was gone. Just tire tracks and the sound of a reefer kicking on somewhere down the lot. My hands were shaking, which pissed me off even more. I'm not a nervous guy. I've dealt with cops, dispatchers, border agents. This was different. This felt like I was in the middle of something without knowing the rules. I waited for the warehouse guys to open up.
Took another hour. Forklift driver finally rolled the gate, waved me over, asked for the bill of lading like everything was normal. I didn't say anything about the guy in the hoodie. What was I gonna say? They'd just shrug it off, tell me to call the cops, which I wouldn't. Not yet. Not until I had more than gut feelings and scuffed fuel caps. After they unloaded the reels, I headed north to a buddy's garage in Ogden. Name's Riley. Runs his own repair bay behind a used truck dealer. Not flashy, but he knows what he's doing. And he doesn't talk much, which I like. I called ahead, told him I wanted a full look at the fuel system. Didn't tell him why. He had me pull around back, into the shade. Popped the hood, ran diagnostics, hooked into the ECM with his laptop. "You're throwing minor deviations on 2 of the injectors," he said, "but not enough to trigger a code. Fuel rail pressure? Spikes at idle. Not wild, but not stable. Could be early stage contamination." I handed him the garbage bag with the filters from Elko. He cut them open, real careful, spread the media out on a clean tray. "Jesus," he muttered. "That's not dirt. What is it?" He pinched a bit of it and held it to the light. "Looks like ceramic. Could be ground up porcelain. Could be sandblasting media. Either way, it's not diesel safe. If this got past your second filter, it's already chewing your injectors." He looked up. "Someone did this to you." I nodded. Didn't say anything. "Did you piss off a mechanic?" "I don't think so." "Someone from a yard?" "Don't know." "You haul union stuff lately?" "No." He gave a half shrug. "Could be anyone then." "Can you flush it?" I asked. "Sure, but it's not a cheap job. You're looking at tank drop, line purge, filter set, and we still can't guarantee the injectors are clean. Could run $5,000. "Yeah," I said, jaw tight. I figured. He cleaned up, dropped the hood, and leaned against the bumper. "Want me to report it?" "No, not yet." "You need to keep track of who's been near your rig, Mitch. This ain't some random sabotage. This is planned." "I know." That night, I parked at a private lot outside of town, fenced in, cameras everywhere, $20 cash to the old guy in the booth. I sat in the cab with the lights off, watching the entrance, listening to every tick and pop of the truck cooling down. No one followed me this time. No black car, no hoodie guy, just quiet. But I didn't feel safe, not even close. I started writing down every place I'd stopped in the last 3 weeks, every lot, every fuel stop, every back lot I'd slept in. Cross-referenced it with when the truck started acting weird. Had it narrowed to 5 places. One of them was Sparks, where I picked up the load, where that first grit showed up. I circled it. Tomorrow, I'd call someone I trusted out there, ask some questions, quietly. Because whoever this was, they weren't done. They were just seeing if I'd break first.
Guy I know out there. Name's Denny Stokes. He runs a yard a few blocks from where I picked up that cable load. He used to haul before his back gave out, now rents space to owner ops and does minor repairs. Keeps his ears open. Doesn't drink, doesn't talk unless you ask. I trust him. "Denny," I said when he picked up, "it's Mitch." "Callahan. Been a minute." "Yeah, listen, I need a favor." "Go on." "I picked up a load 2 days ago near you, Gregg Street. Since then, someone's been messing with my tanks. Sabotage level. Ever hear anything like that around your yard?" He was quiet for a beat. "Someone's been messing with your fuel?" "Grit, like ceramic. Clean work. Subtle. My filters were packed. Injectors half-cooked. Rail pressures dancing. No mistakes here." Another pause. "Yeah, I heard something a few weeks ago. Some flatbed guy out of Fresno had his engine quit 100 miles out. Same thing. Sand in the system. Never got it fixed. Parked it and walked away." "You know where he fueled?" "No, but he slept here. 3 nights before it happened." "Anything weird at your yard?" He sighed. "There's been a guy. Shows up late. Drives a white Dodge. No front plate. Says he's looking to buy a trailer. Doesn't ask real questions. Hangs around, walks slow. Same guy, I think. A buddy of mine saw over at that shop on Glendale Ave. Shady mechanic. Keeps switching names on the sign. You got a name? Shop went by R&S Truck Repair last I saw. No receipt, cash only, no website. You know the type. I did. We all did. Every town's got one. Looks legit from the outside, but you wouldn't leave your keys there. I thanked Denny, hung up, and sat back in the seat thinking. R&S. I'd driven past that shop a dozen times. Never thought twice. But the more I ran it through, the more it made sense. They're right between two big truck stops, and they don't do advertising. Just sit there and wait for the desperate, or the cheap, or maybe the marked. I still had the mechanic's face in my head. The one back in Elko. Gray shop shirt, rubber gloves, scuffed boots. Glanced at my tank like he already knew what he was looking at. I couldn't prove anything, but I was starting to see a pattern, and the pieces were starting to fit. I called Riley in Ogden. Asked him if he had a contact for lab fuel testing. Not the cheap strip tests, but something real, certified. He gave me a number. I drove over, drained samples from both tanks into labeled jars, paid cash. The guy said results in 24 hours. I told him I wasn't going anywhere till I saw what was in those tanks. I got a room at a Motel 6 near the lab. Watched the lot all night from the second floor. Ate out of a vending machine. Slept in intervals. Every time I drifted off, I saw the black car in my mirror again. Next day, lab called just after noon. You got silica, the guy said. High concentration. It's been processed too, not natural sand, probably aluminum oxide or something close. Real fine, uniform grain.
It's used in abrasive blasting. If this got into your fuel, it's bad news. Is it sabotage? It's not from a fuel station. No way this slipped past filters at a pump. Someone put it in directly. I thanked him and drove straight back to Riley's. Showed him the report. He whistled through his teeth. They weren't trying to make you stall. They were trying to make you bleed money. I nodded. Slow kill. That's the play. You gonna report it? I'm thinking bigger. I want to pin it. You got a suspect? Maybe. Shop in Sparks. And maybe that mechanic in Elko's connected. You want me to call in a favor? I know a guy at the State Patrol. No, I said. I got something else in mind. That night, I parked across the street from R&S in Sparks. I didn't roll in like I needed a repair. I just sat there in a borrowed pickup, windows down, six-pack under the seat, fake license plate snapped on. I watched. First hour, nothing. Second hour, a white Dodge rolled up. No plate. Parked around the back, real casual. Guy got out, same frame as the one I had seen behind my truck, walked like he belonged there. Disappeared inside. I waited, took photos, got shots of the truck, the guy's back, the door, everything. Then I made one call to a fleet manager I knew back in Reno. He runs a dozen trucks, all leased. Told him if he was still getting his annuals done at R&S, he might want to look into some mechanical failures lately. Injectors going out, engines straining. He didn't say much, but I knew he was listening. Guys like him know how to work quiet. They don't call cops, they call lawyers. 2 weeks later, R&S was closed, windows papered, sign gone, phone disconnected. I never heard who pulled the trigger. Maybe it was DOT, maybe one of the fleets filed a claim, maybe somebody higher up wanted a clean house before it got loud. I didn't ask, I didn't care. The Dodge disappeared too. Haven't seen it since. Could have gone south, could have burned. Doesn't matter. I got my tanks drained, lines flushed, injectors replaced, out of pocket, 10 grand gone. No insurance payout, no warranty coverage, no apology. But my truck runs clean now, and I don't park just anywhere anymore. I still think about that first bit of grit on the fuel cap, how small it was, how easy it would have been to brush off and forget. If I'd done that, I'd probably be broken down on some shoulder, engine cooked, staring at a voided warranty and a dispatcher who couldn't care less. 10 grand later, I've got clean lines, new injectors, and a hard-earned education.
Thing is, I didn't lose a load, didn't lose the truck, but I lost something else. The easy rhythm of the road, maybe. The trust. That quiet you settle into on long stretches, where the hum of the tires drowns out everything. That's gone. Now I roll with locking caps on both tanks, keyed different from the cab. I check them at every stop.
Doesn't matter if it's just a piss break or a coffee refill. Every time, I walk around and put eyes on everything. And if a lot feels off, too quiet, too dark, too far from cameras, I don't park. I keep rolling, even if it means burning hours or finding a dirt pullout where I can see both directions. I don't fuel at small-time places anymore. No cut rate stops, no back-of-a-lot service bays. I stick to the majors, where the cameras are on and someone's always watching. Yeah, it's more expensive, but it's cheaper than another engine rebuild. I changed my route planning too. Used to run I-80 like clockwork. Knew every rest area, every decent diner, every pothole between Reno and Omaha. Now, I rotate. Mix in US 50, hit I-70 when the weather allows. Spread it out so no one can predict where I'll be 2 days from now. I used to think route loyalty was a badge of honor. Now I know it's just a routine someone else can study. I also started logging things different. Not just the official stuff for the ELD. I've got a little black book in the side cubby now, handwritten. Every place I park, every time I fuel, who was nearby. Even dumb things like what the weather was doing or if a truck was idling too long beside me. Paranoia? Maybe. But once you've been burned quiet, you learn not to ignore patterns. A couple guys I know have noticed the changes, asked why I'm suddenly so twitchy. I don't tell them the whole story. Just say I had some trouble and it cost me more than it should have. One of them, Ronnie, laughed and said I was turning into an old man. You gonna start sleeping with your boots on next? I didn't answer, but the truth is, sometimes they do. I didn't go to the cops, never filed a report. What would I say? Someone put powder in my diesel? They'd yawn and hand me a flyer about fuel theft. Even if I had video of the guy, there'd be no charge that sticks without catching him in the act. And whoever he was, he's probably halfway across the country by now, leaning on another fuel cap. But I got the message, loud and clear. This job's not just point A to point B anymore. It's not just making deadlines and dodging way stations. It's about staying alert in ways they don't teach you in CDL school. Anyone can learn to back into a tight dock or chain up in the snow. But nobody teaches you how to spot quiet sabotage. Nobody warns you that the real damage doesn't always come with flashing lights or blown tires. Sometimes it shows up in your fuel tank, slow and silent. And by the time you hear it, it's already too late. I still drive, still love the road, but it's different now. Not worse, just sharper. Like the difference between a wet road and black ice. Both look the same from a distance, but one will send you into the ditch if you don't respect it. You stay out here long enough, you learn that experience doesn't mean you're safe. It just means you've survived long enough to see what can really go wrong. And that's the part that sticks with me. Not the grit, not the filters, not even the money. It's that someone out there knew exactly how to break my rig without leaving a trace. And if they knew it once, they can do it again. So now I move different, think different, watch everything. And I never, ever ignore a scuffed fuel cap.